Okay, so this is my initial thoughts after seeing Rise of Skywalker. Um, Please note this is gonna be full of spoilers. I literally just finished watching the movie. I'm gonna be talking about the spoilers. So if you don't want that, this is your time and your point to check out. That is a last warning in five, four, three, two, one. Okay, everybody who cared about spoilers, goodbye, and see you back in a little bit. Maybe, who knows? But okay, so Rise of Skywalker. Maybe unpopular opinion, but I loved it actually. I enjoyed it immensely. It felt like Star Wars to me. Most of these Star Wars movies lately have not felt like Star Wars. This really, really did. But let's see. I want to run through some points real quick that I really stuck out to me. I was really excited when I finally saw the Knights of Ren. However, spoiler, they do nothing with them. Actually, they later go out like a bitch, so that really pissed me off. Let's see. Um, uh, they kept calling it like a Sith. What is it? Sith Pathfinder or something. It's like a little. Basically, it looks like a holocron. It's a Sith. They keep calling it Sith Pathfinder. Oh, it leads you to so and so Sith planet, so and so Sith planet. I'm like, it's a motherfucking holocron. It's a goddamn holocron. Anybody who says otherwise is fucking wrong. So yeah, there was that. I'll turn the volume a little bit. There we go. There's that, and it really fucking bugged me. I was like, no, it's a goddamn holocron, motherfucker. So there's that. Pardon my language. I just got off it a little bit high off the watching it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm fresh emotions. So, um, but yeah, it was a freaking holocron. Anybody says otherwise is wrong. That was a holocron. Let's see. I really did enjoy. It was one critiques that I noticed right off the bat is like it doesn't give you much time to breathe, except in like momentary dialogue places. The movie is really 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 fast paced. I think too fast paced for its own good, really. But all the Star Wars films have had that issue. And most films these days have that issue. It gets worse and worse and worse for their going so fast paced and they don't pick a scene and develop it. This is a big pet peeve and it's why I think Endgame and many other like Marvel movies need to slow down. But let's see. It's too fast paced for it's so good. That's why unpopular opinion again. I thought Spider Man. What is it? Which one is that one? Spider Man. It's not Homecoming. It's the one before that. Spider Man. Wait, is it Homecoming? Yeah, Homecoming. I thought Homecoming wasn't very good because it was too fast paced and they spent way too much time like rushing through scenes and they did never chose a scene to develop it. It gave me whiplash. It was too fast paced. So this Star Wars movie is a little bit the same way. All movies these days are too fast paced. They need to slow down. Let's see. I personally believe that uh, Rey's lightsaber skills are ass. She has no form at all, and it was very refreshing to see Kylo Ren kicking her ass whenever they fought. Like he clearly knew what he was doing. He was in control. He was pacing the fight completely, and she was just flailing her arms wildly. I really enjoyed that because Rey has no training, and Kylo Ren has been trained by Luke and Snoke. Spoiler: Snoke is just Palpatine, and all that. But that was refreshing to me because I didn't like how basically when Kylo was fighting her originally, even while wounded, a Sith, when wounded, they're stronger because it brings them pain and they grow strength through pain and emotions. So Kylo should have been stronger and beaten her. But this time, I feel like they listened to some of the fans and Kylo Ren handed her ass to her time and time again. He was clearly toying with her. It was very entertaining to watch. I enjoyed it. But Rey has no skill with a lightsaber. She flails around wildly. She changes up like how she's attacking with like no patterns, no skill whatsoever. She clearly doesn't have a form down. Um, which anybody who knows anything about the extended universe knows there's several forms. She has none of them. She doesn't even. She just flails. Honestly, she just flails wildly. Which I was good to see like Kylo Ren like bopping her when like abusing that. It was really good. Um, I kind of felt like um kind of felt like kind of felt like when Leia died, it was weird. I think they probably killed her off at that point in the movie because Carrie Fisher died in real life, and they ran out of scenes to put in for her in the movie. But I can't confirm that for sure. It just felt a little weird. Um, she later comes back, or like she comes back and says Ben's name right when she's dying, and like Ben was about to fucking kill her, and like he stops, and then Ray just stabs him in the stomach with his lightsaber. It was lame, but I understand why it had to happen for plot. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it was not it was eh. Let's see. I feel like the movie had a lot, and I mean a lot of cut content. Like there was many scenes that I feel like were cut artificially short to meet a certain like minimal um movie time. Like they didn't want to go too far over a certain threshold. Like this feels like it was a movie that with all the scenes that they did actually shoot and wanted to put in it was like closer to 5 hours or something. Because like most scenes I feel like are cut like way before they were supposed to be. Like there's a lot of extra content there that they're not putting in there. Um I will say I loved Finn in this movie. Finn and Poe Dameron were my favorite characters in this, honestly. They were fantastic. I think they brought their acting up to a much higher level. I love the expansions that they did to Poe's backstory. Um, Knowing more about Poe's backstory, knowing more about what Poe's been through and the implications of that, I really enjoyed. Like spoiler, he's a spice trader, he was like a spice runner, and like he was a criminal for a while, and now he's working for the rebellion, and I find that personally really really cool. I loved that addition. It added layers to his character that I think he needed. I love their dynamic in this. I think Finn and Poe really felt like sort of like Han and Luke in the originals. It was a really good callback, or like Anakin and Obi-Wan in the prequels. I love their dynamic. It was great. Um, let's see. I think it was a really good addition. I think even all the way back in the Force Awakens, it was kind of hinted at this that Finn was force sensitive, and they really laid that on pretty thick in this movie. I feel that Finn is force sensitive. He keeps saying, "I have a feeling. It's a feeling," and all that. I'm like, okay, cool. Finn's force sensitive. That explains like why he was able to go toe to toe with people when he wielded a lightsaber a little bit. He may not have believed it or no understood why then, but that explains it, and I think it may actually make sense. I love the idea that Finn could be a Jedi. Um, let's see. Sorry, this is all over the place again. I just watched it, covering it as I remember it and see it. Um, let's see. I enjoyed Chewie in this. There's admittedly a lot of fan service for this for the fans that have been here a long time, but I feel we're owed that much because they've been bastardizing the franchise. So we were owed that. We really were. It was long overdue. And it's not like Solo level of really cheap like shallow fan service. This is fan service that felt genuine. Like somebody really looked at the past movies and like tried to bring things back for continuity's sake. I really enjoyed that. If anybody, I personally believe that Rise of Skywalker made The Last Jedi better. It almost fixes it, and it mostly acts like The Last Jedi didn't happen. And anything that's key plot points that did happen in Last Jedi, they keep and they ignore the rest, which was good. I really enjoyed that. Let's see. Uh, I think that uh, Palpatine still being alive is kind of like a what the fuck type moment. But again, the Sith. If I know a little bit more about the Sith than my family does, and people I went to see it with, but I don't know much as like the extended universe, like hardcore fans. But I've always figured out. I kind of learned that you can't defeat the Sith. There's always like Sith. As long as there's Jedi, there's gonna be Sith because there's like no light or dark side really. It's just the Force. So yeah. Palpatine being back as a big baddie, well, kind of a MacGuffin moment, was at least a little refreshing. And he's a riot. Every time he's on screen, he's a riot. That dude, I love him. Was like best actor in Star Wars. I love him. Um, Poe has a love interest. I feel like an old flame, and it felt really good. I liked that because I felt like Star Wars has been a little too sterile, lacking any and all attachments. Everything's felt too much like it's a controlled environment, like a clinic. it lacked some humanity for a while, and seeing him having an old flame and seeing them banter and share those little moments, it was really good. I like that. Um, Finn, I feel like they set up like a love interest for him because like they didn't want to have like a love triangle moment between him, Poe, Rey, and Kylo, I guess. Spoilers, Kylo and Rey kiss at some point, and Kylo becomes a fucking Force Ghost for some reason, and I was literally like, yay, she's fucking dead! Yes! Make Kylo the new protagonist! I don't like Rey! Kylo, new protagonist, yes! And he holds her close, and then they introduce something like Rey can force heal people, which in the extended universe is a thing. You can force heal people. But like even in like a tabletop version, that's a force power, and like in games, that's a force power. It's pretty cool. I like that. I like it. So that she could do that, and I'm like, okay. But Kylo does it, and he brings Rey back from the dead, and then he dies after doing it. I guess it's like he gave all his life energy to her to make her live. But right before he dies and he becomes a Force Ghost, they share a kiss, and I'm like, oh, okay. So at least the sex is back in Star Wars. It's good to see like this isn't like sterile again. Again, I felt like it brought some heart back, but then Kylo basically drops Ghost Force Ghost and Rey is alive, and she's the sole progenitor of the Jedi and all that. Um, Now let's see. I'm just trying to save like the last point, the most heated point about it. I have a very strong opinion on for last. Because I have a pretty strong word to say about that. Um, I felt like the action was actually really good in this. There was some really, really badass moments for Poe, Chewie, um, Finn, and the gang. I honestly, I wish the movie was just Poe, Finn, and Chewie. Like, I wish it was the Gang of Three kind of movie because, like, I loved them. They were the best part of the movie. Every time they were on screen, it was great. Unfortunately, every time Rey popped up on screen, I got sucked out of the feature a little bit. Well, she's there a lot. I do give them brownie points. That my main complaint with Rey is she had no personality. She had no emotions in the past movies. This one, I feel like they overcompensated, made her have too many emotions, but because plot, I understand why they did that. Like, she's basically the granddaughter of Palpatine or something, which that's the most fanfiction-y thing ever, but okay. Um, but she's the granddaughter of Palpatine, so she has like super duper rich Sith bloodline in her, which Star Wars, like the Sith, like pure, really big Sith, are always love the pure bloodlines. And then, so like she's got this conflict inside her, I can tell, which at least makes sense why she's an emotional wreck because she's trying to be a Jedi, but really everything about her says she should be a Sith. So there's that. So I at least liked that she had actual emotions now. She smiled, she cried, she worried, she fretted, she snapped, she yelled. She went through everything. She went through the whole spectrum. I wish it was like that for the whole movie. That like not like that much emotion, but I wish she had emotion throughout all three films. Besides, wow, wonder, whimsy. But yeah. Let's see. Um, I think again the action was good. They really cut down on the jokes. Like compared to Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, they really cut down on the jokes, and I felt like the jokes they did have were good, and they didn't like completely ruin entire moments. I really hated that about The Last Jedi, especially like they get a tense scene, and then, hey, is this thing on? Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Like that whole like talking on the phone bit between Poe and like that really annoying commander dude that looked like it felt like a giant man baby. Um, that was dumb. I remember laughing in the theater when I first saw the movie, but like afterwards, like wow, that was dumb. Um, let's see. Oh, that man baby commander though. He has a point where he basically reveals, "Oh yes, I am the person who is feeding the rebellion information." And it's not because I want you guys to win. It's because I want Kylo Ren to lose. He's literally that much of a sore loser and a man baby that he doesn't give a shit who wins as long as Kylo Ren loses. And I personally found that really funny. And then like later he just gets fucking blasted in the chest by an actually competent general, and it's like it's super cathartic for me because I fucking hated his character. So it was great. Let's see. Really enjoyed it. I love the climax. Okay, I'm gonna get the climax now because this is running a little bit and I'm running out of things to talk about. I feel like I'm repeating myself. But the climax, they all basically go to the Sith planet, and they all end up arriving, and they're having a big battle, and they're really, really losing. They introduced a character again that's a female for Finn's backstory. It's like I feel like Finn is supposed to get in a relationship with. She's also a former stormtrooper like Finn, and they revealed that whole religions have rebelled, and like sometimes they just like rebel. I think it implied that those who are force sensitive rebel against it. I don't know. But basically, while that battle's going on, it was really cool, really heated. I felt like the action was great. I felt like the drama, the tension. I felt it. I was really sucked in during that. Um, let's see. Uh, um, let's see. Then and like the action kept cutting between that and like moments with Rey walking and getting into the Sith stuff. I think that was blended actually pretty well together. It didn't like take me too far out of out of it. It left like a certain sense of mystery and tension to me for the film. Like when I was watching the movie, I was like, "Oh God, are they gonna make it out? Are they gonna make it out?" And then I saw it. Then it's like, "Are they gonna make it out? They're gonna make it out." And then like Ray walks in there, she's going like, she's like really uneasy, and then like something will happen in there, and then it'll cut back to the action. It's like, no, wow, it's just getting invested in where that is. I think it's actually paced really well. It's one of the moments where the movie slows down. And I think it needs to, but they cut away from it back to the action because that's what's currently going on above. Um, let's see. Basically, Ray ends up going. I felt like Ray had like the most stupid moments in the movie, though. The reason why she sucked me out of the film every time is because she kept like, if you ever play Dungeons and Dragons, she always splits the party. She leaves the party to do something on her own because I have a feeling about this. Go on without me, and then she's fine. That's my biggest problem. She does all this stupid shit and she never gets she never gets punished for it. Nothing bad happens to her. It's dumb. Like logically in a film in a story, if you're writing a character that always goes off on their own and always does something and says, "Go without me. I'll be there. I'll be fine. I'll meet up later." You should have eventually a moment where like because they're doing the whole lone wolf thing, it bites them in the ass and then they have to be a part of the group. Ray doesn't really have a moment like that. Even to the end, she's trying to solo. Which is dumb. Let's see. Uh, Rey, being the child of Palpatine, did basically explain away her super over OP force sensitivity because Palpatine is always like he doesn't like lightsabers. He prefers pure force. So even Rey and how she fights in this, she kind of like flails with the lightsaber, and then she'll actually throw in some force powers. I liked that sort of parallel to the chance to the Palpatine. But back to that, back to the battle. So they're all going in there, and like Finn and all that, they're all going through. They're trying to blow up all these beacons and stop the First Order. The Final Order now. That's the dumbest name, by the way, Final Order. But they're doing that, and let's see. Uh, they determine that basically the way to all the ships on the Final Order have planet buster capabilities, which I'm like, wow, just escalating. Okay, watch out for power scaling. But let's see. So they're doing that, and they decide, oh yeah, if you destroy the cannon, the ship falls apart because you can hit the reactor core. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Star Wars has always had the MacGuffin way to deal with these planet busting things. So they're doing that, and like they're basically being brutalized. They don't have enough ships to do it, and they came up with a plan where Lando Calrissian, yes, Lando was there. I remember when I saw him, I literally went, Lando. I was like, super excited to see him. Lando shows up with the fleet later on. It's really fucking cool. Like it's actually a really good moment. I put it on par with like everyone's here, Avengers Assemble from Endgame. It felt like that to me. I was so fucking giddy. I love that moment. Probably one of my favorite moments in like Star Wars movies so far. It was great. I loved it. Um, let's see. Uh, yeah, and then they do that, and that whole thing starts happening, and then while Rey's having a confrontation with Palpatine, he's basically saying like, "Kill me, and you will be, and my soul will go into you. I will become you, and you will become me." Bar. And like it's implied if she kills him, because rule of two, I guess, he'll take control of her and gain her powers in her body. So that's in like he does the whole like Luke thing with her. Spoilers doesn't work, but bit like Kylo Ren, Ben Kenobi. He ends up going over there. I mean, not Ben Kenobi, Ben Solo. Ben Solo comes over, and he's rushing to try to get to Rey to stop her from making that moment. and like uh he ends up getting surrounded by the Knights of Ren, the people that he trained, he works for. I was like, oh, the Knights of Ren, this is gonna be really cool. Because they've been having the Knights of Ren pop up here and there in the movie, but they hadn't done anything with them, man. I was really excited to see what they could do. I'm like, wow, the Knights of Ren are really cool. It's gonna be like, you taught us, Kylo, and we know everything. We know how you fight. We know exactly how you fight, and you can't beat all of us at once, not in your weakened non-Sith state or something like that. It would have been really cool. But then like they are beating the shit out of him, and like small side note. So you know that whole astral projection thing that they introduced in the Last Jedi, where like, oh yeah, we're having a force vision, and I yank this from your person, I feel the wetness. That weird connection thing. The whole plot hinges around this. Like the entire movie abuses this way too much, in my opinion. I think it's the dumbest fucking thing. I think it breaks tension. I think it's a bad plot device, and it's literally a get out of jail free card for any situation. And if it's dumb, I hate it. I don't care if it's in the canon or not, and if it is, whatever. It's a dumb thing. It shouldn't be of it. It shouldn't be there, because it ruins tension and all that. But let's see. Ray basically they're beating him up, and then like Ray has them. They have that connection moment, and Ray puts the light through behind her back, and then she brings it back down, and it's gone from her hand. And then Kylo is also holding his hand there, and he brings his hand back. He's holding the ignited lightsaber, and then he proceeds to literally like kill all the Knights of Ren with no effort whatsoever. And it was the most underwhelming, dumb thing in the world. Like, why even have the Knights of Ren if you're literally not going to use them? And then when you do use them, it's so underwhelming and stupid. But yeah. Let's see. Uh, so he does that. Ray's trying. Like, they all meet up with Palpatine, and like Palpatine literally just like bops them. He's like, lightsabers. That's cute. Let me show you what the Force can do, baby. And I've always loved that. He's always like, lightsabers. That's cute. Let me show you the Force real quick. So he basically like bops them, throws them away, and then like starts siphoning their Force energy, which is something I think you can do in Star Wars. I'm pretty sure it's a power that really exists. So he siphons it, and then he makes himself young again because he's been like, oh, creepy, this missing fingers. I'm dying. I'm a corpse. And he's been hooked up to a machine that's been like keeping him alive, I guess, barely. Like if he gets hooked, he gets detached from it. I feel like he'd die. So he's doing that, and he sucks it all from them, and he becomes like young again, and he's just going crazy. And then he like, while they're down and writhing in agony, unable to do anything, he literally raises both hands to the sky and does force lightning across like the entire planet he's on, and it was really really cool. And I've always felt like in Star Wars, if you have enough like force sensitivity and you're in tune enough with the force, have enough force power, you can do things like force lightning and like other things like that on a planetary level. And he did, and to me, it felt like a confirmation of it. I don't know as much about the extended universe of the people, but I've always had this feeling like force powers, especially like force power specifically, can be on the planetary level. For Star Wars: The Forces and Destiny says it can be, and I've heard that makes good use of the extended universe and all that, even the powers and all that. The Force and Destiny rule set says that certain powers can be applied planetary level when you get enough of them. So I figured that applied to that. It was really fucking cool, and it just showed the raw strength of him, and like when he's back to his prime. Because even like in like The Empire Strikes Back, it didn't seem like he was in his prime. It felt like he was still a little weaker than he should have been. You know, especially when you take in the prequels. I know some people don't like the prequels, but I do. So there. Um, but it felt like he was in his prime there before he had all the force powers in the world, and he had them at his fingertips. But that's where my problem comes in. So there comes a moment where Rey is like, "Speak to me, be with me," and she hears all the voices of all the Jedi or something like that, and then all the Jedi live in her, and she stands up and starts fighting with a lightsaber. And he's like, "Force lightning, baby, yeah, one-handed Force lightning, yeah, that's nothing." And she catches it with her lightsaber, right? I'm like, okay, cool. Mace Windu did that too. I can believe it. And then he's overpowering her with just Force lightning, and she forces the second lightsaber that she gave to Kylo into her hand, and then she crosses them. This is the dumbest thing in the world, by the way. It literally ruined the movie for me. She crosses them in front of her, and then starts walking towards him. Suddenly, like she has a second wind that comes out of nowhere, and like, this is making me stronger. Lightsaber equal better than Force, and I'm like, what? No, 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 that's dumb. And then Brink gets closer, and the Force lightning reflects off the crossed lightsabers he's holding in front of her onto Palpatine and starts like burning him into ash, and he's crying out in agony and all that. And it was a really cool effect, and it would have been really cool if it wasn't done in the most contrived, stupid, dumbest way possible. Like, I would have loved to have seen him burn to a crisp to ash and blah, and all that, but like, he didn't. He did, but it was dumb. Because of how she did it, it ruined it for me, and it ruined the entire movie. Like, basically, it was the most fan fictiony way to kill off a villain, in my opinion. Again, this movie is really, really good, but anything to do with Rey feels very forced and fan fictiony. That's the best way I can put it. Forced and fan fictiony. But the rest of the movie feels like Star Wars, except when Rey's there. I feel like because the movie has to cater to Rey, and like it must push a certain agenda, I guess, or something. Disney wants to make Rey the new woman power, yeah, moment. Um, like it ruins the movie because everything she's in is less strong. It's nothing on Rey's own fault. It's because of how the writers of the movie are forced to write her character. They're forced to write her less believable and realistic because it has to fit that, I guess. But so she does that, and he gets destroyed. Then they proceed to just start destroying the whole final empire for Final Order, I mean. And then there's that whole moment with Kylo Ren and her. She dies after basically they save the day. He stands up, he picks her up, and he's cradling her, and then he like tries to force life her back to life. She does end up coming back. They share a kiss, and it's like, oh, okay, that was actually kind of sweet and nice. And then like he dies and becomes a Force ghost, and then I was like, no, like it's just dumb. Like I got really invested in Kylo Ren in this movie. I've always kind of felt like he was the more interesting of the two. He has a real struggle. He has a really like actual struggle within himself to be like the Darth Vader or to be an Anakin type thing, to be the hero or to be the villain. And like he finally chose the hero and then he dies for it. I'm like, no, why would you do that part of him? It should be Rey who chooses to die like the martyr she quote unquote is, and Kylo has to be the one to uphold the Jedi Order. That would make more sense plot wise. But um then after that, as they're working around and all that, they have a moment where like Rey goes to Tatooine and goes to where Luke lived, and she brings Luke and Leia's sabers, which Luke's saber in that because of The Force Awakens is also the saber that Anakin had. It's Anakin's saber, which was Luke's saber, which was Rey's saber, and so she goes over there, wraps them up, and it's actually a really sweet gesture. And then I thought she was gonna leave it in the hut or something. I'm like, oh, okay, nobody comes there, I guess, and like nobody comes to those huts, so it's like a memorial site for the Skywalkers. Cool, the Skywalkers who saved the galaxy. Surely people will respect it, like the people do respect shrines and stuff, right? But no, then she walks out with the bundle, uses the Force to dig a hole in the sand, puts the lightsaber in the ground, and then covers it up. And I had one whole thought during that. Wait a minute, what? But sandstorms though, dust storms. It's a desert planet, and in the prequels they show that this planet has entire sandstorms that tear up things and tear up the sand. She didn't bury it very deep. She buried it like 6 feet under. One sandstorm walks by, it's gone. It's like already flying around. Also, why would you bury it there? There's like the Tusken Raiders and stuff who raid stuff and salvage it and then just hoard it and all that. It's gonna end up in the Tusken Raiders' hands because Sandstorm's gonna blow it somewhere and then they're gonna find it. It was dumb. I understand the mentality. It was supposed to be like here lies the lightsaber of Anakin, Luke, and Leia, the Skywalkers, and it's going to rest in the Skywalker's birthplace, the place where they all came from. I understand the gesture, but its execution was dumb. Again, that comes down to writing. Um, but let's see. Then like Leia and Luke popped up, and they were Force ghosts, and like a lady was like, "No one's been here in such a long time. Who are you?" She's like, "Rey." She's like, "Rey of who? Rey who?" May I know your family name? I want to know who you are. I've never seen anybody here before. And then Ray sees the Force Ghost, and she goes, Ray Skywalker. And I'm like, no, you're Ray Palpatine, and you didn't even marry Kylo Ren, who was Ben Skywalker. So technically, like, you're not a Skywalker. If you married Ben Skywalker and you became like his wife or something, then maybe you could be called Rey Skywalker. But as is, even if you're like choosing your adopted family of Luke and Leia, like that doesn't I don't it frustrates me. But unless like but also Rey's parents, that whole bit like they were nothing. They do retcon that and they fix it in an actually decent way. They shouldn't have had a retcon in the first place, I mean, but they fixed it in a good way. Like basically like Kylo says something along the lines of um I didn't lie to you. Your parents were nothing, but they chose to be that way to protect you. So basically, I I guess her parents were Palpatine. One of them was Palpatine's kid or something. I don't know. If you start to think about it, it gets a little confusing. But basically they chose to be normal, random nobodies because it would save Rey from Palpatine, which is that's all they wanted. So they sold her to Jakku, which is this is the stupidest thing in the world, by the way. I'm like, why would you do this to save somebody? That's dumb. You're literally selling her into slavery to save her life. Okay, whatever. But basically sells her to the Jakku as a slave, and it's like this will protect you. We love you, and all that. It was dumb. See the moment with there was a moment with C-3PO where like he had red eyes for a second because he was speaking the Sith code. He doesn't become evil. He comes back because R2 has his memory backed up. All that. That was a red herring. There's a moment where like Chewie they like fake Chewie's death and then like literally right afterwards they were like no he's okay, don't worry don't cry, it's okay, Chewie's here. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, Lando. I loved Lando when he popped up. I loved all the old like callbacks. Every time there was like callback to keep continuity and all that, and like actual feel like real fan service, not shallow stuff like in Solo. It felt good. Um, but these I'm just rambling at this point. But I'm rambling at this point. I'm gonna call over. So that's all. Those are my thoughts. Bye.